Remember when TV shows were appointment viewing, not just something to binge? We're about to take you on a journey through 13 iconic series that had us glued to our screens every week. Let's dive into the shows that made us laugh, cry, and rush home to catch every episode. Number 1. Three's Company. Remember that tiny apartment that started it all? Picture this: a cramped living room, a well-worn couch, and 3 roommates constantly stumbling into hilarious misadventures. That's right, we're talking about Three's Company. Jack Tripper, our lovable goofball, had a knack for landing in the most absurd situations. And get this, it was often the most innocent remarks that set off a chain of wild misunderstandings. Did you know John Ritter, the actor behind Jack, was a true master of physical comedy? He'd spend hours perfecting those famous pratfalls, making sure every tumble hit just right. But Three's Company wasn't all slapstick and silly mix-ups. The show tackled some pretty hefty topics for its time, like changing gender roles and unconventional living arrangements. This wasn't just another sitcom. Three's Company became a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Can you imagine rushing home, desperate not to miss a single episode? Millions of viewers did exactly that, week after week, eager to see what ridiculous scenario Jack would land in next. It was appointment television at its finest, bringing laughter into living rooms across America. Number 2. Taxi. From apartment mix-ups to taxicab confessions, the 70s sure knew how to make us laugh. But what if I told you one show managed to turn a grimy garage into TV gold? Get ready to discover the secret ingredient that made Taxi a cultural touchstone. And it's not just Danny DeVito's razor-sharp wit. Picture this: a dingy New York City taxi garage. Not exactly the setting you'd expect for a hit TV show, right? But for the lovable misfits of Taxi, this grimy locale became the heart of their world. From Danny DeVito's grumpy dispatcher Louie to Christopher Lloyd's spaced-out Reverend Jim, each character felt like family. The kind you can't help but love, quirks and all. Taxi wasn't just about the laughs, though. It tackled some pretty heavy stuff like addiction and crushed dreams, but somehow, it always managed to keep us chuckling through the tears. And get this, the show was such a hit, it snagged 31 Emmy nominations and took home 11 of those bad boys. Number 3. MASH. From the streets of New York, we're jumping into a mobile army surgical hospital in Korea. What if I told you that a show about war held the record for the most watched TV episode for decades? H wasn't just popular, it was a cultural phenomenon that shaped how we view both comedy and conflict. Picture this: a group of army doctors and nurses cracking jokes while saving lives in the middle of the Korean War. That's Maz H for you. It wasn't just about the war, though. It was about the human spirit, finding laughter in the darkest of places. Remember Hawkeye Pierce? His wisecracks and pranks weren't just funny, they were a lifeline for both the characters and us viewers back home. Number 4. Mork and Mindy. After Maz H's serious take on war, TV was ready for something completely different. Enter Mork and Mindy, a show that brought comedy from another planet. Remember when an alien crash-landed in Mindy's backyard? That's how we met Mork from Ork, played by the incredible Robin Williams. Mork's mission: to study Earth and report back to his home planet. His observations about our world were hilarious and surprisingly spot on. But the real magic was Robin Williams himself. Did you know many of his lines weren't even in the script? The writers often left blank spaces for Robin to fill with his lightning-fast improv. Nanu Nanu became more than just Mork's greeting. It was a cultural phenomenon. Kids everywhere were saying it, and adults couldn't help but join in. But beneath all the laughs, Mork and Mindy had a heart of gold. It was all about acceptance and understanding. Mork was as different as they come, but Mindy and her family welcomed him with open arms. Wasn't that what we all needed to see? Number 5. Good Times. From outer space to inner-city Chicago, our TV journey takes an unexpected turn. What if I told you that a show about a struggling African-American family became one of the biggest hits of the decade? Good Times wasn't just another sitcom, it was a groundbreaking series that changed the face of television. Picture this: the Evans family living in a Chicago housing project, facing tough times with love and laughter. Sounds heavy, right? But Good Times had us rolling with laughter week after week. Remember JJ's famous catchphrase, "Dynamite"? It spread like wildfire across the nation, with everyone from kids to grandparents shouting it out. But Good Times wasn't all fun and games. It tackled serious issues head-on, showing us the real struggles of African American families in the 70s. From racism to poverty, nothing was off limits. It was like getting a peek into a world many of us had never seen on TV before. Number 6. Happy Days. From Chicago's housing projects, we're heading to small-town Milwaukee. But here's a puzzler. How did a show set in the 1950s become one of the biggest hits of the 1970s? Grab your leather jacket and get ready to meet the Cunninghams. It's time to explore the cultural impact of Happy Days. Remember when Happy Days first hit our screens? It wasn't an instant success. But then along came the Fonz. With his leather jacket and cool, Henry Winkler's character turned the show into a sensation. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be as cool as Fonzie. Can you believe Happy Days became the #1 show on TV in 1976? We were all tuning in every Tuesday at 8 p.m., ready for another dose of 1950s nostalgia. Number 7. Laverne and Shirley. From Happy Days to Happy Nights, America fell in love with a new dynamic duo. But here's the twist. This show about two ordinary women became extraordinary in ways no one expected. How did Laverne and Shirley capture hearts and top the charts? Let's punch in and find out. Picture this: two best friends, Laverne DeFazio and Shirley Feeney, working at a brewery in Milwaukee. Sounds like the start of a joke, right? But for these gals, it was just another day at the office. These blue-collar buddies showed us that life might not always be glamorous, but it can sure be fun. Remember their catchy theme song? "We're gonna do it our way, yes, our way." It became an anthem for independence and friendship. Laverne with her L monogram shirts and Shirley with her stuffed cat, Boo Boo Kitty, they were as different as could be. But together, they were unstoppable. The show wasn't afraid to get silly. From slapstick comedy to outrageous schemes, Laverne and Shirley kept us in stitches week after week. Did you know they even inspired a whole range of merchandise? Yep, we're talking dolls, board games, and even Halloween costumes. Number 8. What's Happening? From brewery workers to high school students, the 70s were all about showcasing real life on TV. But one show took things a step further. What if we told you that a sitcom about 3 teenage boys became a cultural phenomenon, influencing everything from dance moves to social discussions? Get ready to ask, what's happening? This groundbreaking show gave us a front-row seat to the lives of Raj, Dwayne, and Rerun, 3 African-American teens navigating life in Los Angeles. These guys weren't just characters on a screen. They became role models for a whole generation of kids. Their adventures and misadventures had us laughing, but they also tackled some pretty heavy stuff. Number 9. Sanford and Sun. From teen troubles to junkyard jewels. Remember when Fred Sanford's fake heart attacks had us in stitches? This next show took an unlikely setting and turned it into comedy gold. But there's more to this father-son duo than meets the eye. What made Sanford and Son so special that its catchphrases are still part of our vocabulary today? Picture this: a cranky junk dealer and his long-suffering son running a business in Watts, Los Angeles. Doesn't sound like a recipe for laughs, right? But Sanford and Son proved us all wrong. Fred Sanford, with his outrageous schemes and constant complaints, was unlike any TV character we'd seen before. And his son, Lamont, always trying to keep him in line, was the perfect straight man. Remember Fred's classic line, "You big dummy"? It became part of our cultural lexicon, showing just how much impact this little show about a junkyard had. But Sanford and Son wasn't just funny, it was groundbreaking. It was one of the first shows to feature a predominantly African-American cast, paving the way for future shows that explored Black life and culture on television. Number 10. The Love Boat. While Sanford and Sun turned junk into comedy gold, another 70s show was about to make waves in a very different way. Ever wonder how a TV series could spark a real-life industry boom? The Love Boat didn't just entertain us, it changed how we vacation. Ready to set sail on a journey that reshaped pop culture and travel? Picture this: a cruise ship where romance was always on the menu. Each week we'd watch new passengers board the Pacific Princess, searching for love, adventure, or just a good time. And boy, did they find it. The show was like a floating party, and we all had front row seats. Remember the captain's dinner? It was always the highlight, where all the storylines would come together in a perfect mix of drama and comedy. But here's the really cool part. The Love Boat wasn't just make-believe. It actually sparked a huge boom in the cruise industry. After the show premiered in 1977, cruise bookings shot up by a whopping 50%. Suddenly, everyone wanted to find their own romance on the high seas. Talk about life imitating art. Number 11. Newart. While The Love Boat had us dreaming of tropical getaways, another show was about to make small-town life seem hilariously appealing. What if I told you that one of the most beloved sitcoms of the 80s featured a main character who rarely cracked a smile? Newart turned the concept of normal on its head, and we couldn't get enough. Picture this: a quaint Vermont inn run by Bob Newart, a city slicker with a deadpan delivery that could make a stone crack up. His reactions to the town's eccentric locals were pure gold. Remember the Daryl Brothers? Both named Daryl, and neither of them spoke a word. Yet somehow, they became fan favorites. That's the magic of Newart for you. Number 12. All in the Family. From Vermont inns to Queen's apartments, our TV tour takes a controversial turn. What if we told you there was a show so groundbreaking, it managed to top the ratings for 5 straight years while addressing issues most TV executives wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole? All in the Family wasn't your typical sitcom. Set in a working-class neighborhood in Queens, it introduced us to Archie Bunker, a character who made us laugh and squirm in equal measure. Archie's bigoted views and stubborn nature were unlike anything we'd seen on TV before. But here's the kicker. Despite his flaws, we couldn't help but keep watching. Remember Archie's heated arguments with his son-in-law, Mike? They weren't just funny. They were a mirror of the generational divide tearing through 1970s America. The show tackled everything from race and politics to women's rights. Nothing was off limits, and it showed us that comedy could be a powerful tool for social commentary. Number 13. Welcome back, Cotter. Think Archie Bunker was controversial? Imagine a whole classroom full of misfits led by their own former bad boy. Welcome back. Cotter didn't just make us laugh, it changed how we saw education on TV. But did you catch all the catchphrases that snuck into our everyday language? Remember Mr. Cotter, the wise-cracking teacher who returned to his old stomping grounds? He had his hands full with the Sweat Hogs, a gang of lovable troublemakers who kept us in stitches every week. There was Vinnie Barbarino, Freddie Boom Boom Washington, Juan Epstein, and Arnold Horshack. These guys weren't your typical TV students, that's for sure. Speaking of Horshack, how about that laugh of his? It was so distinctive we can probably still hear it echoing in our heads. And Barbarino's confused "what? Where?" became a phrase we all mimicked. But welcome back. Cotter wasn't just about the laughs. It tackled real issues facing urban schools like overcrowding and underfunding. Pretty heavy stuff for a sitcom, right?